Hello, are you out there? I'm Mark, and this is Redo Over. Now, you probably don't know who I am. That's fine. Just give me a moment to explain what I propose here for Stellaris in-depth tutorial. Stellaris has been out for a lot of years, and if you're new to the game, you might find it a little bit intimidating when it comes to the amount of DLC and getting up to speed with the game, because you buy the vanilla Stellaris here for, whatever. You get it at a sale on Steam, but there's 20 DLCs, and it's going to cost you a lot of money, like way past 100. Even buying in bundles, it's probably going to run you a couple hundred. I don't know exactly, but it's a lot. So you're like, well, do I bite the bullet? Do I want to do that? Here's what I propose. Um, I'm gonna play Stellaris with all of my DLCs turned off. I'm gonna play vanilla with the current version here in 2024 of Andromeda, the 3.12 build, and I'm going to play through it, essentially giving a tutorial. Today I'll probably spend about an hour just giving you a real quick overview of getting into the game and the basic menu, and then at that point we'll start to play a casual game. And as we move through the different menus, the different windows, I'll explain to you, to the best of my knowledge, what's going on and kind of try and get you up to speed. And I would encourage you to then play your own playthroughs on the vanilla before jumping off and starting to collect those various DLCs. There's creature like species packs. There's some sort of moderate like adventure packs where it's got some new missions, some new events. And then there's like larger packs that have entire like end game crises and whole new, whatever the heck's game mechanics and stuff. So there's a lot more to the game than what you start out. But knowing vanilla and having fun with it is a great way to play the game. It's completely playable just at the vanilla level. And listen, they've been doing this for 8 years now. The people with Paradox supporting this game. And for all the new stuff they add, they make sure that it all works with the vanilla. So let's just hit new game here real quick. And a couple things to look at. So this is like our new game screen. Over here we have some pre-made species. We're just probably going to pick the United Nations of Earth. Just, it's easy to do because we're all kind of familiar with the Terrans, with Earthlings. But this is sort of the Federation of Planets. These are the good guys, okay? We'll jump into create new species real quickly just to kind of look at the mechanics that sort of differentiate one species from another. It's all customizable. We won't make a custom, but we'll just take a quick look. And then I will point out here, these are all my DLCs. So you can see the green check mark are the DLCs I have. I have about 16 of them, and it looks like there's 5 I haven't purchased yet. Even I don't play the game year round. Every 3 months or so, Paradox is going to pop a new DLC out there. And it's really important that they do that and that we support them and purchase those DLCs because it allows them to keep the game relevant. I think it came out in 2016. So that's an 8-year run. And rather than what a lot of games do, they give you Stellaris 1, then Stellaris 2, then Stellaris 3, and the quality of the game varies drastically from episode to episode. Stellaris is just Stellaris. It's 8 years of support with all these great DLCs brought along. Now, you'll note, though, as I mouse over here, Apocalypse, I own the DLC, but this DLC is disabled. So all the checks you see there, I have disabled, so I will be playing without those. All right? So this is a quick summary of the United Nations of Earth, the civilization species we're going to play. But let's jump into Create New, and we'll hit Select. So over on the left side here are the different panels you're going to go through to create your custom species. But a lot of it is sort of just window dressing. It doesn't actually affect the gameplay all that much. But yeah, you can see the portraits here. You can click through mammalian, reptilian, avian. One thing you'll notice, though, is that there are these purple force fields. Wherever you see that purple force field, it means that it requires some DLC to get it. So Stellaris, the Paradox people, let you see it with your eyes, which is very smart advertising on their part, saying, hey, this is here, but you're going to have to buy it if you want to get it. And usually you can get the DLC just from this window just by clicking over here. I think it'll take you straight into a place to purchase it. So that's pretty easy to do. Cool thing though that I also really like that Paradox does with their locked DLC content is like some of these Xenos here, like this guy here with his crazy horns, right? You might see a Xenos, an alien species with that portrait in your game. You can't play it as them, but some of their features, some of the elements of the that's locked behind DLC may be visible in your game. Systems of government, odd traits, you may come across it. It's just not going to be unlocked for you potentially until you buy it if you want to. Let's just cover probably 3 features that actually do affect each species. So let's jump to under species. We have traits. This essentially is each species is going to have usually 2 traits. Sometimes they might take 2 positive traits, take a negative trait to get a 3rd positive trait. But this is stuff like my species are elephantine like, and they're massively strong. And so you could be intelligent. You could be adaptive. Here's a negative one. You could be a slow breeder, meaning your species reproduces more slowly. That's clearly a -2 there. So, yeah, usually you're going to have about 2 traits, though, for most species. Then as you advance through the gameplay, you get the ability to add a handful of traits. You're never going to get them all, but you can add some modifiers, or you can eliminate negative traits, genetically edit them out. So it's pretty cool stuff. Pretty high-minded sci-fi, which I really enjoy. So that's one important part of your species. And then origin. This is an interesting little thing. This is essentially your background for your species, like who they were before they became the starfaring nascent nation that you're going to start with here in the year 2200. Oh, there you go. Okay, so by default, I think we get Prosperous Unification or Galactic Doorstep or Lost Colony. Those are the only 3 available in the vanilla. But as I scroll down, you can see again the purple force fields. There are well over a dozen additional. Yeah, I haven't even done some of these, honestly. There's like 24 other backgrounds. But ultimately, all it's going to do is gives you a little pop-up over here. So like if I click on Galactic Doorstep, it changes this information. You get a gateway in your starting system. Your gateway building cost is reduced. Your megastructure build speed is improved by 25%. So usually the green numbers or the red numbers are, well, no, I guess just green, are going to show you your positives or negatives. Now, let's think about this. I see that gateway build cost is minus 25%. It's green because that's a benefit. Even though it represents a negative pressure on the build cost, it means it's cheaper. So in that sense, green means good. If you see a red, whether red is plus or minus, it means it's a detriment. It's bad for you. So ultimately, each little trait, each ethic, each technology, your origin adds these little chunks of code modifiers of 10%, 5%, 25% to how your species differs from the baseline species of other aliens out there in the galaxy. You'll want to make sure as a new player, and this is probably true for any 4X style game, that you magnify your strengths. So if we say have big bonuses to megastructure build speed, we're going to want to build megastructure. I know that's kind of obvious, but I think it's a very common pitfall for new strategy game players. Think Civilization, all that kind of stuff, to spread it out, to do a little bit of every category. But the issue with that is, although you're well balanced, you don't excel at anything. So just a little pro tip there. Pay attention to what your bonuses are for your species, your civilization, and then go hard into those categories. And as you magnify those things out, you take advantage of your strengths. That's how you're going to win, like Stellaris. Or Masters of Orion's, Galactic Civilizations. We cover all those kinds of things. So, that's one of them. Let's take Prosperous Unification there. Boom. That gives us 4 additional pops. Here's another interesting thing that's worth mentioning right off the bat about Stellaris. The term pops it means populations. And they use the word pops, P-O-P, P-O-P-S. Anywhere you see that, it means population. It means people. And in Stellaris in particular, your pops are your most valuable asset. Now, that doesn't mean when you go out there and you conquer all the aliens and you want to get their pops. For the most part, most builds, you're going to want to bring them in. Now, you may bring them in as second-class citizens or slaves potentially, but you need population to usually effectively win the game. There's some special Xeno civilizations you can make where you maybe dispose of, like just like eat Xenos, eat aliens, but for the most part, you want to keep them alive because they're a great resource. Pops. There you go. Yeah, we'll take prosperous unification and government ethics. So out of all these tabs, these are the three. This is probably the most important one. This page kind of represents not who your species is in the flesh, but who they are in the mind. Their ethics, their morals, their mental state, their form of government. This is broken up into three parts here. Ethics, the ethics wheel. Authority, which is really just your form of government. Check this out. Democratic, oligarchic, dictatorial, imperial, and there's some force-filled out ones. Hive mind, corporation, megacorporation, and machine intelligence, gestalt consciousness kind of stuff. And then over here are your civics. Every civilization gets to choose one authority type. You just choose one. You get to choose 2 civics. And civics are, I'd say, probably represents some sort of positive leaning of your civilization at this point in their development. Like, for instance, functional architecture. Your society right now exists at a place where they have really reached an apex of their architectural design and they really appreciate it. To them, it's really important. It's a part of who they are. Whereas another species might be into mining guilds and think like dwarves. They just love delving into the crust of their planet. That's what's important to them. That's where it's at. That's what's cool. So you get 2 civics picks. There's maybe 30 or 40 of them in there initially. Now the ethics, you get 3 ethics points. So this is not too complicated, but the teal or the inner circle of the ethics wheel, each one of those little circles costs 1 point. So I could go authoritarian, spiritualist, xenophobe. There you go. That's interesting. That sounds like a authoritarian, religious, xenophobic zealots. Yeah, that's scary. Authoritarian, religious xenophobes. That is wow. Okay. Interestingly though, that took up all 3 of my traits. Now the outer wheel is the orange wheel. Guess what? That represents fanatic xenophobes or fanatic spiritualist or fanatic authoritarian. Not just authoritarian. Not just your regular vanilla authoritarian, but the extremely, extremely dangerous fanatic authoritarian that we all love to play in our game. I think we can agree on that. So, interestingly though, these cost 2 ethics points. So if I pick that, I can only ever be fanatical in one of the 8 ethics because it's taken up 2 points and I've only got 3 to start with. So you can do a little bit of mixing and matching. You could play that spiritualist and that fanatic authoritarian, or you could take 3 regular style picks. Oh, that did something interesting though. Did you notice I had spiritualist picked, but when I go across the wheel to materialist, it deselects spiritualist. So that's one of the weird little, not weird, it's mutually exclusive features. You can be a materialist or a spiritualist, but not both. You can be a militarist or a pacifist, but not both. You can be a xenophobe or a xenophile. So I think xeno is alien, right? Phobe means fear and phile means love. Yeah, so you either love the alien or you hate the alien. One or the other. And then finally, the last set is egalitarian or authoritarian. Okay. So, great thing about, strategy computer games in general and role-playing games is you get to learn what all these fancy words mean. If you don't know some of these, by all means, look it up. Expand your vocabulary and your knowledge of various systems of government around the world. You can learn a lot about humanity from games just like this. So it's just part of the reason why I like them. Am I more in the center now? There we go. Okay. That's it. That's kind of what matters. There's a couple different worlds you can choose from. So it is kind of what you're most suited for, your species, which is an interesting concept. It means that you might come across some aliens, some Xenos, that aren't as interested in the type of world you live on. Maybe they like the desert planet. It could help with conflicts, but that's neither here nor there. Let's just call that done. You clearly could see there you could go through all those steps to make your own extremely custom species if you want to. But ultimately, that was just to give you an idea of what the makeup of any given civilization is. Cool. Otherwise, let's jump back to United Nations of Earth. They're going to be democratic. Awesome. Looks like they are going to really lean into factions, meaning like political factions, religious factions within their own society. And you can promote and suppress factions. And you'll get some resources from which factions you choose to put forward. And it's called ethics attraction, I think is what the reference is there. Okay, nextly, here's our couple of little civics. We are a beacon of liberty, so we get extra unity in our empire. Size is less impacted by the number of pops we have. So we can have a bigger population overall and still be manageable. Idealistic foundation, that means our people are just happier. 10% happiness. It's cool because we're the shining beacon on the hill, the beacon of liberty. We're awesome. And these are our ethics. Xenophile, meaning alien lover, and that means we get more trade value and one more envoy. Envoys are kind of like your negotiators with aliens. I think everyone starts with 2, so +1 means we go to 3. That's a 50% bonus. It's not bad. And finally, fanatic egalitarian. Yes, you would better be egalitarian. We do not tolerate you not being egalitarian. That gives us a big faction resource output and specialist pop resource output +10. We'll get into the worker pyramid, the tiers of society further in here. But yeah, there you go. So, oh, and then over here, these are the traits. So we're a human, and the human animal, the human species, like the body, what makes us up physically, we are adaptive. That's +10 habitability. So more worlds are suitable to human aliens. We're nomadic, meaning immigration and resettlement costs are greatly. It's easier for humans to move from one colony to another within their colony. Cool. And finally, we're wasteful. Yeah, we are. Humans be so wasteful. +10% pop consumer goods upkeep. Again, you see that's a red one. That red +10 means it's a detriment. That's a tax on your civilization. But there you go. We'll hit select. This is our starting. This is the galaxy, the game setup before you jump into the game. So I'm gonna hit reset to default. Right now it has us on a medium galaxy size, 600 star systems. Oh, yeah, I think it goes up to 1,000. We're gonna play on tiny though, just 200. I know this gameplay. I'll probably do like an hour a week. I do like an hour to 90 minutes if anyone follows the series here for a while. Is it going to take 20 weeks to get through? I don't know. So I'm playing a small galaxy to try and get this series shortened down a bit. You have all sorts of things. You can adjust costs of technologies, probability of worlds, all this stuff. Difficulty level, we're going to play at Cadet. Cadet should be reasonable for you to get some wins, even as a new player. But you get down to the Admiral, Grand Admiral level. Even with the best strategies, it's still possible to not always be able to win those games. It's really tough, actually. And I guess the final thing that I would say is a little interesting about Stellaris. It's more common with more modern strategy games. Is this phases of the gameplay? Think of any strategy game you play, whether it's civilization or space game. You start with just your starting tile, your starting square. You don't know what the map looks like. The fog of war covers everything. So that would be kind of like the first stage, the exploration stage. So in this game, you start at the year 2200. The mid-game year will start at 2300. So you have 100 years in the early part of the game. Then you'll have another 100 years in the mid-game. And then at 2400, the end game will start. And so think of it, the first part, beginning game, you're building up your empire. Mid-game, you're strengthening the roots you've already got. And some of the things that will happen change. Some of the events will change around. You probably fight some wars with other Xenos, do a lot of negotiations, that kind of stuff. Really become robust, strong. And then the end game starts. It's usually a crisis. Some sort of malevolent rift opens in the galaxy and undead zombies pour through in spaceships, try and devour every civilization. You got to stop it. Yeah. And then finally, victory years at 2500. When it hits 2500, the game's over. And you will have a score based off of how many pops, how many colonies, how much technology, how many alien threat zombies in the end game crisis did your people manage to stop and destroy. You get points for all that, and you'll be ranked. And you're either going to be first place and win the game, or you'll be second and downward, ranked out with all the other alien species. You want to be number one. That's how you win Stellaris. But it does have an end date, and you can adjust those sliders. You can make an infinite game, but one thing you'll find with a game like this is balance curves. They do a lot of trajectories, maybe a exponential growth versus a bell curve, things like that for population growth, all sorts of numbers. They've done a lot over the 8 years to really shine this and make it a nice play experience. You fiddle with some of these settings, you could really throw the game out of whack. By all means, do it. You can play a galaxy by yourself. You can turn off all other Xenos and you can just explore the galaxy with your civilization. If you just want to get all the worlds and see all the things and anomalies, you can play some really weird styles that way. You can also have advanced empires all around you, and you're the only new weak empire. Everyone else is 100 times stronger than you. You can do crazy stuff. Yeah. So, at any rate, that was it. I'm just going to play on the tiny galaxy to hopefully get a shorter game. Let's hit play. We've got all sorts of great sci-fi art in this game. How are we doing on time? We're at 22 minutes. Okay, so this just tells us our origin. Here's our president, Dolores Mwanga. Gives us all the stats. We've already looked at our ethics, our civics, all that. Let's hit begin. So let's look at the screen. We'll kind of look at this part, the top, this part, and just sort of go from there. And then we'll start looking into some of the submenus. So behind my face box right here are just some sort of map drawing features that allow you to highlight borders of empires, stuff like that. You don't need to use it a whole lot. It might show you where your alliance borders or your enemy's borders are, whatever. It doesn't really affect gameplay so much, so that's why my face box lives here. It's kind of out of the way. All right, so we are in the solar system view. Obviously, by using my mouse wheel, I can zoom in, zoom out. I can rotate. Let's see if I hold the wheel. Let's see. Oh, yeah, you can zoom way far. Ooh, that's cool. So, obviously, when you're playing the game, a lot of the icons are very tiny, but let's zoom in on our space station. Check this out. You can actually really see the ships and have a great view of a lot of what's going on. I'm trying to actually rotate. There we go. I'm holding down the right mouse wheel. Check that out. You can rotate and just see different Xenos are going to have different looks. But yeah, it's a pretty beautiful game when you zoom into it. Especially, I know a lot of guys with the battles. When they go into a spaceship battle and there's 50 ships on each side and they start firing, you can really zoom in there and see it all. So this is the solar system view, right? This happens to be Earth, but obviously there'll be other stars. But down here at the bottom, we're going to click the galaxy map view. And here is our glorious Milky Way galaxy. There you go. There's about 200 star systems, or probably less than 200 systems, but some of those are binary and trinary systems. There, for the total stars, it's around 200. But yeah, let's zoom in a little bit to our section of the galaxy. You'll notice these hyperlanes are connecting one system to another. So I think in the fiction, there are essentially some precursor alien civilization made hyper pathways, hyperspace roadways from system to system. So although the galaxy is comprised of billions of stars and systems, you only have access to the hyperspace network. Okay. It gives an interesting effect of defensibility, because you can have bottlenecks. You can have a place like Alpha Centauri with 5 hyperlanes into it, but you could also have a place up here like Niam right here with only one way in and one way out. I don't know what's there, but I see a planet. So I'm sitting there going, you know what? Here's Sol. I bet if we put we build up our star base there, we put our fleet here to protect Sol, we're also effectively making Niam nigh invulnerable. And whatever we do in there, we don't have to have ships posted. We don't have to build up a big beefy star base or have armies defending our planet. Probably nothing bad's ever going to happen at Niam. Probably. But so yeah, you can you can even look at this map and say this is too porous. Earth is too vulnerable here with 4 ways into it, 4 hyperlanes. I'm gonna do another map. I'm gonna generate another galaxy and exit and come back in and try and find a more defensible portion. So bear in mind that strategy. So yeah, but I think this is fine. We'll start with this. I see that our telescopes have found a couple potentially habitable worlds. I think by default there's always 2 suitable worlds for your species relatively close to your starting planet. So the idea is you're going to go from your 1 homeworld to 3, your homeworld and 2 colonies, 3 planets relatively early in the game. And then from there you can gain more and more planets. 5, 10, 25, 50. It gets a little unwieldy once you get past 10 or 15 colonies, in my opinion. So I like to play on smaller galaxies for that reason. But Paradox has done a pretty good job of putting in automation features. So if you are trying to conquer the whole galaxy, you want to take over 200 star systems, you can create subsectors of the galaxy and then put those under AI control, and then individual colonies you can have them auto building and auto govern, stuff like that. So you don't have to micromanage everything. Cool. All right. So again, though, I can click on the Sol icon and go back to my solar system view, or I can back out to the galaxy view. All right. Cool. Now, important thing to know: Stellaris is a real-time strategy game. If you're like playing with other people, you're going to hit the go button, and all of you are going to advance forward. Here's the clock up here: years, months, days. Check this out. I hit play, and look at this. The days are ticking by. I can slow that down. I go to the slowest, and you can see there every couple seconds a day will tick by. Or we could speed it up to fastest, and I'll stop that. I don't like that. I usually play on normal, ish. So obviously, if you're playing with other people, RTS style, playing multiplayer, you can't wait for everyone to take their turn. The clock's just going to run, and you need to learn and how to keep up. Bottom line. It can be very challenging. I've heard it's like the most rewarding way to play the game. I've never played it that way, quite honestly. You got to have hours and hours to spend with the other people you're gaming with. So if you can arrange that, it would be great. I would encourage you, though, to play solo at least a couple times just to learn what everything does before you jump into a multiplayer game, because you will get hammered. It's a challenge. But I've heard once you win for the first time, you're just yeah, because it takes a lot of time to get a victory, what I've been told. So that being what it is, you can just obviously pause, play. Also, I think the spacebar, let me see, spacebar, yeah, spacebar will play or pause. And then as events happen, as important notable things, pop-up windows, events, research completed, oftentimes the clock will pause automatically for you. You can address what's going on, read the descriptions, a lot of it's storytelling. So you want to take the time to read the paragraphs of information, follow the plot, learn about the lore of the galaxy, of the Stellaris world, galaxy you're playing in. It's a really good time. So it's almost like a little mini Star Trek, a big Star Trek episode is kind of what I think. It's like all the Star Trek series put together into one, and you're playing over decades and decades of this spacefaring civilization. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, think of it as turn-based if you're playing solo. Functionally, if you're playing solo, it's turn-based. Cool. Okay, so now let's look at the 3 other areas. We have the right side, the left side, and the top. Cool. All right, so over here we have what's called the outliner. This is the stuff that makes up your empire. It's your colonies, your ships, your factions, your armies. That exists in here. So for instance, here's Earth, one of our planets, and here is the Sol Station shipyard. This is our spaceport. And then on this tab are our ships. We actually have a military fleet. It's a little baby fleet with 3 corvettes. These think these are just like little tiny spaceships. They're barely warships. And sorry, we have a construction ship and a science ship. They'll do different things for us. We'll get into it. Cool. Interestingly, while our science ships or our construction ships or our planets are building stuff, or space stations or shipyards are making ships, they'll have progress bars, and you will be able to visually see those advancing as they make progress over many days, oftentimes many months, sometimes even across several years of game time of this clock up here to get really big projects done. So you'll want to watch that. Usually, if there's any critical thing that is has come up, like say you have starvation on a planet. I don't think that's really a thing, but if you have starvation on a planet, you'll get a little number icon up here saying that, hey, you need to address this. You'll need to address this. So that keeps you from having to constantly toggle between the different tabs, because you'll get other tabs as well, like for your factions and stuff. So if you ever see a number 1 or number 2 and a little circle up on these tabs, stop your game, go see what it's warning about, because it means some critical thing needs to be addressed. While we're on that subject, you'll notice these colorful orange boxes sitting here. Boom, boom, boom. That's just telling us that, hey, you have some technologies you need to research. You don't have an engineering research going, or a society research, or a physics research. You better choose something. It's critical to your empire, your gameplay, that you're researching something. So anytime some real big thing, some real big event comes up, you'll get one of these very obvious pop-ups saying, whoa, whoa, time out, look at this, read it, take care of it, address it before you continue the game. So it's kind of trying to help fail safe so you don't forget something for like 10 years of play. If you weren't researching physics for 10 years, it would really hurt your empire. Okay. That being said, the top bar is minus these orange pop-ups, these emergency pop-ups. The top bar is essentially the goods, the materials, the resources. So we have energy credits. That's like the money in the game. It's essentially a energy token. But you got to think of it this way. What would be the most common thing between any great spacefaring empires? Energy production. Everything's energy. Matter is energy. So yeah, it's like you're saying, it's an agreement to exchange a certain amount of energy to each other, and that forms the basis of all monetary transactions. They don't care about gold, they care about energy, because with energy, you can make gold. So we have minerals. That's kind of like buildings. Yeah, you build buildings and do planetary improvements with minerals, rock, silica, whatever. Food. Yeah, if you have fleshy populations, they're going to eat food. Food's probably the least important thing, probably the easiest to get. So having a big surplus of it, like right now we're producing an extra 51 per month. That's not really... If we were producing like an extra 10, 20 a month, that'd be okay, but plus 50 a month, that's overkill. We're making way more food than we need. We should shift our production away from food into other more useful things. It's in my opinion. For this United Nations of Earth build, we don't need that much food. Consumer goods, yeah. Consumer goods are like microwave ovens, laptops, consumer goods, diapers. So you're going to make those, and they will be consumed by your pops through their jobs, kind of functionally. Like it's kind of like a mix of like, yeah, maybe it's part of like your miners need consumer goods, but also they use consumer goods to make something else with it, and you'll transform consumer goods into many other useful products. stats. Okay, alloys. This is like just super valuable metals and you know hyper titanium. You get what I'm saying, right? Duratanium. That's all that kind of stuff. Here we have influence. Influence is an interesting one. You only ever produce maybe 2, 3, 4 influence per month. It's a very limited resource. Even far into the game, you can't produce a whole lot of it. But it represents your influence with other alien species. So you're all generating a certain amount of influence with each other, relative to each other, and where you can put your influence is limited. That's why the number doesn't ever get that much, is because you can exert a lot of influence, but only on a couple star systems or on a couple causes of your species. But while you're putting your influence over here, you can't put your influence on what these guys are doing over here. So it's a very rare resource. It's a very valuable resource. Unity. This is an interesting concept. Unity represents the cohesion of your space empire. Now, initially to start with, we're all a bunch of Terrans, but over time, we could have a dozen different aliens that are a part of our United Nations of Earth civilization. And we could have, instead of right now, we probably have 32 population right here. Empire population, 32. I don't know if that means 32 billion, whatever. But it could be 300 billion. And now our empire size has grown massively. So how much unity we have can really be affected. Unity is going to help us do sort of cultural projects as well as hire leaders. So let's jump over to research. This is a pretty straightforward number. You have 3 categories of research: the physics, the society, the engineering. Leaders can affect how much of that you have. You can hire more scientist jobs and put some of your 32 population, instead of being farmers, maybe we move a couple of them over and now they're scientists and we get more research. There you go. As you develop technologies, it unlocks more and more buildings and ideas and concepts and projects, ship designs, weapons. So you're going to want to constantly build that research. And that's the rate per month, by the way. That number, so 22 doesn't go to 44 to 66. It's just each month you get 22 more physics research, and it dumps in thousands of research to get even the first levels of technologies. We'll take a look at that in a moment. Rare resources, yeah, I call these strategic resources, but just a little handful of them. Just funny things: volatile motes, exotic gases, rare crystals. It's just sci-fi jargon talk, but yeah, some of them are more rare than others, but you can find ways to harvest them on a monthly basis. You can certainly trade for them. You can buy and sell them. It's kind of like thinking D&D. It's like gems. Rather than, copper, gold, silver coins, gems are like really compact, very valuable, resources. Yeah, there you go. And you do consume them for like special high-tech stuff. Let's keep going. Here's our empire size. So yeah, empire size can never go below 50. Kind of like the minimum. It has to do with like the balance curves the paradox does, but ultimately we can add on districts, meaning a farming, think the Midwest of the United States grows corn, the whole thing, right? The whole Midwest of America is about growing corn and wheat. That would be a farming district on a planet. It's not the whole planet, but it's kind of almost like a nation-sized thing. So your districts increase the diversity and the size of your empire. Systems, meaning entire star systems, increase the diversity and the extent of your empire, making it a little harder to control. The more far-flung, the more light years from one side of your empire to the other. Think of the Mongols at their height, right? They were, I don't want to say they were awesome, but they were powerful. But they eventually fell back, despite all of their wealth and their massive armies and how much they conquered, because it was unwieldy. They were doing their stuff on horseback. Yeah. They spanned all of Asia. Okay. Colonies, individual colonies, like Earth, like Mars, like Proxima Centauri b, every colony you have, every world is going to add to the diversity and the unwieldiness of your empire. And then finally, the fourth thing that comes into play, calculating total empire size, is your population. I'm probably getting too verbose on this, but it's important to understand that the more people you have, the more diverse you are, the more that empire size is going to grow. Now, bottom line is your empire size will never be less than 50, and you get no detriments from growing your empire right up until you hit 100. And I can see there, while empire size is at or below 100, there are no other costs to be modified. Once you grow beyond 100, you can do that. You can go well beyond 100 in empire size. You can have hundreds of pops, dozens of star systems, dozens of colonies, 100 districts. But your empire size is going to get really massive. And what that's going to do is it's going to make technologies, traditions, edicts, and campaigns. These are like the big concepts, the big things that your whole civilization works on collectively, much more expensive. So, and I think in a meta sense, it's just meant to represent if you want to make an edict across your entire 12 star system empire, and you're saying all of us shall make sure that we go out on every Monday afternoon and pick up litter together. That's what our whole world's going to do. And you got 100 billion people going, well, I got to do that too. And you're like, yes, you do. And they're like, I don't want to do that. Like, you're on homework. You're like 50 light years away from me. I don't want to go pick up trash on Monday. That's kind of what that represents. So a smaller empire is less unwieldy, more wieldy. You can wield it better, right? Yeah, I think that's what it means. Okay. So yeah, I think one of the interesting things about that mechanic is that in a lot of conquest games, 4X games, you just want to spread as fast as you can and just gobble up every nation, every country, every world. You're just going to gobble it all up and become unstoppable giant. That will work in this game, but there's a massive downward pressure from that empire size. What they're really going for is that you build up a robust empire, and then through wars and treaties and negotiations and alliances, you become the most powerful and influential. And that's how you win the game. And when the endgame crisis comes around, you're in a good position to go kill some space zombies and be heroic and kind of save the galaxy. That's another good way to boost your overall score for the end game, to see if you win. Okay, what else we got up here? Yeah, just our population. That's just a number, 32. It's all on Earth right now. Envoys, we have up to 3 envoys available, as I mentioned, because we're democratic. Whatever, we get 1 extra envoy. Everyone else will have 2. This is just for initially first contact with aliens, negotiating with aliens, like he's your diplomat, or spying on aliens. So that's again kind of where do you put your focus. If there's 20 alien species in your galaxy, you've only got 3 envoys or 2 envoys. You can focus really hard on one and really monkey with their politics and their worlds and what's going on, but you can't monkey with everyone. So it's where do you direct your influence or your ire, politically speaking. That's what envoys will do for you. Star bases, yeah. These represent your really big star bases, your star fortresses, right? Oftentimes you can build ships on them, but that's up to you. It might be military, it might be a star dock, it might be a trade station. Think Babylon 5, whatever. So yeah, they do have a cap. I think you can exceed the cap, but I think there's massive upkeep cost. There's a massive penalty for going beyond your cap. But ultimately, you can improve your cap beyond the initial 3 just by growing to more systems and colonies. As you expand outward, it'll say, okay, you get your 4th star base, your 5th star base, your 6th star base. And I know for a lot of people, I know for me in particular, it was like odd being like, well, I would just put a star base in every system or around every planet. I think that's a balancing issue. I think it's a little kludgy. Obviously, a space empire could just build as many star bases as they wanted, functionally. But for game balance, because of how many cool things you can do with the star base, they're just like, well, they don't want people having 5 planets and 50 star bases, and the star bases do everything. Although in certain gameplays with DLCs, you can kind of be a spaceborne empire, and you don't really worry about planets. You're like, planets fooey, we're all in habitats and space stations and orbital rings. It's kind of cool. But in general, In general, most species are locked on planets with a handful of stars. There you go. And finally, naval capacity. Yeah, this is just a logistical thing. And I also think, again, this just keeps from you just building 350 Corvettes, just pumping out as many as you can until your fleet is overwhelming just because of how many there are. Bear in mind that while this thing's running on your computer, all the other alien species empires are also growing, so it's got to do a lot of calculations per second to keep this clock up here running. It's got to be calculating for thousands of ships, hundreds of colonies. And so I think that's just a convenient way to be like, easy there. But yeah, you can get your capacity to go up through all sorts of technologies, and your admiralty can give you bonuses to that. There's a lot of way to improve it. But as always, if you blow past your naval capacity, you will have big detriments in the form of upkeep costs, of taxes. Yeah. So all right, we're doing pretty good. We're about 45 minutes. So that's the top of the screen. Those are all the numbers you're tracking. That's your stats, right? Your stats for your. Now over here on the left side, this is really the game. This pop-out window here. It's a pop-out because you don't need to see any of these. Like over here, you want to see progress bars and numbers and all that kind of stuff on this side. That's why the outliner kind of stays out. Right? But the pop out over here, these are your menus. You can see they're sorted by F keys. I think you could even get in and customize what F keys do what, but whatever. So ultimately, there's 13 menus. We won't get into everything, but let's take a look at the market. Here we go. It's going to pop out a window where there's stuff for you to do. You can learn about stuff. You can see stats. You can set policies. Here you can buy and sell different resources. Cool. We'll get into that. As we advance through the episodes, anytime we go into a sub window, we will drill in and we'll talk about what you can do there, what I know about it, hints, tips, how it benefits you. And but it's going to take hours and hours to get through that. So we'll kind of focus in as we go. For today's episode, we're just trying to get the overview of the game, okay? Some things you don't get into very often. Let's look at the expansion planner. Expansion planner is kind of a way to adjust your sectors and group planets together. But in the early game in particular, there's nothing you need to do in the expansion planner. I need to learn more about it, to be really honest. I don't think I've ever really used this effectively. But don't be daunted by the 13 pop-outs over here. Some of these you got to get into very regularly, and they have powerful things. Other things you'll rarely use. Let's look at an idea. Species. Okay. As you discover other species in the galaxy, they'll appear here. So if you want to go in and research and learn some things about the other species, this is a great panel to do it from. You can read over all their benefits and their detriments. But once you've looked at that, you don't necessarily need to come in here every turn. You might only need to go in there every time you discover new alien species. You can kind of scope them out. Eventually, also, you have the ability to set the rights of different species that have come within your civilization. And you can even adjust templates when you have genetic modifications. You'll get the ability to genetically modify your species eventually. And you can add some cool traits or erase detriments such as wasteful. You can make humans that are no longer wasteful. Cool. But you don't have to get into this species panel on the regular. There's stuff to do there, and it's useful information, but you're not putting your eyes on it all the time. That kind of makes sense. So that's kind of an overview. I would say couple other important things to look at. We'll try and cap this at about an hour. So let's go for another 10 minutes here. Leaders, probably pretty important. You can come in and you have a certain number of leaders working for you. I think we have 4 right now. And over time, you can hire additional officials. You have commanders, scientists. So these are warrior scientists and just bureaucrats, essentially, depending on what you need them for. They all have their own name, age, their own ethics. They have their own special abilities. Like this person here, Sakura Sato, is an expert in industry technologies. They'll boost the speed of research related to industry technology. Cool. So leaders will be pretty important. You can assign governors to your planets and your sectors. You can assign admirals to your fleets. One thing why one limit on how many leaders you have is you have a max size leader pool, as well as every leader requires unity to purchase and support. So it actually limits how many leaders. You can't just have 100 leaders. So, but that's something you'll get into. It's a pretty important part. Technology is important. Let's choose our 3 starting technologies right now. So here's our technology window. Physics, we got to select something. Society, we need to select. In engineering, we need to select 4. So let's start with the physics first. We can do administrative AI. That's a good one. We could do some energy production research and improved deflectors. I want to take this one. Administrative AI. This will give us just a bonus to our research speed, which to start off in the game would be a nice one to have, because it would service us through the entire arc of our empire. So let's do that. Let's jump into society tab. Here is a new handful of society technologies. In particular, this golden outlined one here is special, I guess, for us, because we are that we're that unified world. We started as a unified society. That was our background, whatever it's called, origin. There you go. So this one actually is a little bit rare. Not every species would get this. So yeah, I'm going to take planetary unification. It's going to give us extra unity and a 5% bonus to unity. And yeah, cool. I'm going to take it because that leans into one of the strengths of our human species is those unity bonuses. I think one of our things gives us a 10% to all unity. That's going to give us another 5% to unity. So we're leaning into unity. Cool. And then here under engineering, this is going to be stuff like mining, a lot of weapons. This is more mechanical stuff. So what do we got? Basic strifecraft. Yeah, here's some weaponry. Afterburners. That is extra speed for our ships. Useful. Extra mining output. I could see going for that to start with. The UN humans, are not particularly militaristic, so I'm not going to lean heavy into military stuff. So yeah, we'll go for mining. There you go. I've now chosen these, and if you look over here, you can see these progress bars, and it's saying 47 months, 47 months, 40 months. So it takes a long time to do research. Now check this out. When I hit the play button up here, these progress bars will start to fill up. There we go. So the month is here. I'll hit plus. So we're hitting it faster now. Watch, the month's going to roll around, and the progress bars will go up. There they go. So it's slowly growing. Oh, wow. I'm going to hit pause. I noticed our months jumped up radically. Not exactly sure what just happened there. Not going to worry about it for now. But yeah, it's going to take a really long time. Years for these technologies to come. Okay. But at least now you see the mechanic of hitting play. The only way to get the game to progress is to hit the play button at times. You don't necessarily have to go turn. Sometimes you just hit play, you speed it up, and you let it run forward, and all the stuff will happen. All these progress bars will go. Rest assured, once one of those technology researches has completed, you will get a pop-up window saying new technology, and you can read about it, choose the next one. Fair enough. What's the final really important thing to look at? I would say, let's jump back into our solar system. And here's Earth. You'll have to learn what all these little icons mean. It's kind of a busy screen. It's pretty, but it's very busy. It's very, very sci-fi feeling, in my opinion. But yeah, we could click on the Earth here, or we can click on Earth off of our outline. So we'll just double click. This is the planet window. You're going to spend quite a bit of time in here. This is really how you manage your colonies. This will be the last thing we really look at today. We can see here's one of our governors of this world. It's a continental world. It shows stability, how many people, crime rates, how much housing, the jobs. We have a build queue here. Now we can build districts, which again, these are going to be city districts. Think like Tokyo or New York, massive cities, mega cities. We can have industrial districts. We can have energy districts. So this would be like massive solar farms or the Middle East oil fields or like the Hoover Dam. kind of represents these mining districts and farming, agricultural districts. So these are kind of like like a lot of the base jobs. It provides housing, like places for your people to live, and it provides some amount of work for them. Kind of like grunt work, right? Now down here under buildings, you can notice that there's only ever 12 total building slots on a planet. Now a building in general is not providing housing. It's providing jobs. So making a bunch of buildings doesn't give your people a lot of places to live. It gives your people a lot of places to work. And in general, buildings provide specialist jobs, mid-tier jobs. And we'll take a quick look at what that means here in just a moment. But yeah, you're only ever going to get so many buildings. So be cautious. You're only ever going to be able to build so many districts. If you look here, the blue, the orange, the yellow, the red, and the green each have 2 empty squares where it's colored but it's hollow in the middle. What it means is that you could do any 2. So if I select a new industrial district and I say, yeah, I want to build that, if I were to click that, this square would turn orange and I would lose one of the 2 hollow greens, one of the 2 hollow reds, yellows, and blues, because I only had 2 possible districts I could build of any type. So that's what that represents. Now, there are also some grays here. You see these grays? These are districts that are possible, but it's blocked on our world or our colony for some reason. So if I jump over to features, here we go. This little warning tape. There's a sprawling slum. I will have to spend energy credits in 120 days to clear that blocker, and what that will do is it'll give me a pop. Or here in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, this is an ocean patch. If I clear the garbage patch out, I'll get 3 extra agricultural districts, and those will ungray those. That's pretty cool. You can actually, if you mouse over right here, this little box of districts, it gives you the breakdown. You can see how many are locked, how many you have. Yeah, pretty cool. But sometimes there's very interesting features on a planet. So closely look at each planet. What else do we got? Yeah, here's a very general, each planet, this shows their production and their upkeep. So this is your output and your cost, your taxes is how I look at it. And we can get into all this, but you can see it very discreetly breaks down what you're generating. You got to learn all your little icons, what's alloy, what's influence, what's minerals, but you'll get a feeling for it. There's maybe 20-ish icons, so it's not an unlimited number. It's not that crazy, but you'll get a feel for it. And of course, all your upkeep. So if you're sitting there going, man, we just keep running out of consumer goods. I'm at -2 consumer goods every month. What's going on? You can come in here and you can see, oh, a politician job takes 4 consumer goods. And for some reason, I made more administrators. Now my administrators are costing me 16 consumer goods. That's why I'm going into a deficit. I have too many administrators, or I need to find a way to make more consumer goods. Cool. Speaking of that, let's go into our populations tab. Down at the bottom, there's holdings. It's kind of later game. Armies, you don't need any armies to start. That's more of like a mid-game thing. Population, though, this tab you will get into. This is a breakdown. Look at this cool pyramid icon. The gold top, the silver middle of the pyramid, and the bronze bottom of the pyramid. This is the 3 tiers. Rulers, specialists, and workers. There you go. Now, you can see here, you can actually break down each one. So we have 2 rulers, and yeah, they're politicians. Listen, this is telling you, are they happy? What's their housing needs? What's their upkeep cost? In this case, this guy takes 1 food and 3.1 consumer goods. He's consuming a lot, or she. But they're giving us 12.4 unity, a half of a trade, and +3 amenities. Amenities are things like good Wi-Fi, beautiful parks, a swimming pool. Amenities. Things that make people want to live and be happy where they're at. Cool. So let's close that tab down. Let's go into the specialists here. Let's hit this one. Ooh, this breaks it down. We have artisans, bureaucrats, enforcers. We don't have any enforcers. Metallurgists, researchers. Those are your scientists I was talking about earlier. And traders. Yeah. Trade usually generates energy. And then depending on different policies, you can put your energy into making others, turn it into consumer goods automatically, or turn it into alloys, or turn it into research. You do different stuff with it. Trade's kind of a little bit squirrely, but you can do a trade-based species. Through our playthrough, trade will be sort of minorly important. Maybe a little bit. I think humans get a little bonus to trade the way we've done it, like 10%. Whatever. Interestingly, you can, let me close this sub-tab down. I could click on one of these and star it. I can only star one, but I can say the most important job to me is alloys. Or wait, I have a deficit of consumer goods, so artisans make consumer goods. I'm going to click on this, and as new people come into my world, under this world, Earth, they're going to preferentially get slotted into the consumer goods artisan job. So you can kind of control that a little bit. You can even go so far as to come in here and say, I have no enforcers right now. I have one position, but I don't ever want enforcers. They reduce criminality. I'm not worried about it. So I'm going to hit minus. And what I've done is I've demoted it. I've said, no, I don't want any. And you can actually adjust that back to normal. I could add that back in, but you could demote all bureaucrats. I hate bureaucrats. I don't want one. I don't even want two. I have blocked off all bureaucratic jobs. So you can really micromanage where your workers go. Interesting. I'll set that back to normal. And we're just at an hour. Yeah, we'll get wrapped up here, folks. Finally, your worker class. So yeah, these are your clerks, your farmers, your miners, and your electrician. No big deal. Sorry, energy generator electricians. Yeah, they're pretty cool. So that's it. That's kind of the skinny of it. Now, bear in mind, look what I accidentally just did. When I was fiddling with this, I accidentally promoted one of my 5 clerks, went from the lowest tier of workers, and got a specialist job as a cop. That happened very quickly. People love to go up the pyramid, but people do not like to go down the pyramid. If I try and demote people from the specialist tier back down, if I'm not careful about balancing my jobs, it can take months. 100 days, 3 months, 7 months, a year. There's a way to see what it is, but yeah, it can be really tricky to get, like, say a bureaucrat to go take that clerk position. It'll happen eventually. You can go in and say, fire all the bureaucrats, but what will happen, instead of them just flooding into the clerk jobs, they'll become unemployed. It's not the end of the world. They'll probably be a little unhappy, but in general, they'll just sit there twiddling their thumbs, doing nothing for you. Remember, pops are kind of your most valuable resource. So demoting people is doable, but they'll sit there for like a year before they'll go take that job. I guess they're getting their little unemployment check, whatever. But yeah, they'll twiddle their thumbs. So be cautious. We'll get into all that more. I know we just cursorily looked over everything, but that's it. This world panel is one of the ones you'll interface with a lot, but that's it. Yeah, go back to our galaxy view. So if you watched, thank you so much. On the next episode, we are going to probably have Earth start building something, our first building or whatever. We'll send out our science ship, and we'll have our construction ship start building a asteroid mine or something like that. And we'll start letting the clock run. We'll watch the days turn into months, and the game will progress. And very quickly, we'll probably get a couple of colonies here at these 2 worlds. We'll make colony ships. We'll see how those new worlds progress, and we'll just go through the game from there. And over here, window by window, as we need to get into these, we will very closely analyze all the features, and then we'll talk about what the numbers do, what it all means, what it's good for. Okay? If you watched, thank you so much. Take care of yourself.